You may be familiar with the Indian caste system, a form of social discrimination that put people into different classes. It was outlawed decades ago in India, but remnants still exist in Indian communities around the world. And as Margaret Evans explains, in Britain, some people say it's time the law stepped in to protect them.
Britain's Indian community is the largest minority in the country, well-established, successful, a part of the social fabric. And yet old-world prejudices have been carried to these shores and allowed to flourish, say some. India's caste system raising its head. The men praying at this Ravidas temple in East London are Chamar, one of the lowest rungs in the Indian caste system, an occupational class whose members traditionally worked as tanners, deemed untouchable because they dealt with carcasses. Raunki Jamaat came here in the 1980s hoping to shed the stigma. Not possible, he says.
They will find out you are low caste or you are high caste. You can't go
Even
around.
his 29-year-old British-born son has come up against it.
You are constantly labelled as that, and therefore that stands through in people's mind and not your own, achievement.
Discrimination based on caste was outlawed in India 60 years ago, but it is still widespread. Untouchables, or Dalits as they're now called, often relegated to the most menial of jobs. In Britain, Dalits want legal protection, and they're taking their demands to the street.
Caste system, down, down. Caste system.
The British government says it will legislate against caste discrimination, but that it has to go through a consultation process first. The people marching behind me say that's a stalling tactic. They're carrying a petition with 20,000 signatures on it to Downing Street.
Hopefully, we believe that the Prime Minister will listen to our call.
But not everyone in the Indian community backs legislation.
Amongst my friends, this discussion of what caste are you a high caste or are you a Dalit, just hasn't ever been part of our vocabulary.
Pratik Dattani says it will stigmatize the Indian community, that if there is a problem, it will die out naturally with older generations. Tens of thousands of Dalits disagree and say they remain vulnerable to prejudice based on the social classes of ancestors long dead.
It's such a massive part of people's lives in the Indian subculture, but it's just never approached head-on.
It needs, he says, to be dragged out of the dark corners where it still lives. Margaret Evans, CBC News, London.